Not everyone reveres month. Our team met Lin.
Imagine being told that one test can decide your future. Not one semester, not your personality, not your creativity. One test. Now imagine millions of teenagers waking up every day knowing that if they fail that exam, they are not just disappointing themselves. They are disappointing their parents, their teachers, and maybe the entire reason their family sacrificed so much for them. This is gaokao, China's national college entrance exam. And for many students, it's not just a test. It becomes their entire life. Today, we are diving into how gaokao became one of the most terrifying education systems in the world, and why so many families still believe in it, and what it quietly takes away from people trapped inside of it. Every year, millions of students sit for gaokao. In 2025, China's Ministry of Education said 13.35 million students were expected to take it. That number alone tells you this is not just an exam. It is a national event. And on paper, gaokao sounds fair. Everybody takes the same kind of high-stakes test. The top scorers get access to the best universities. In theory, it rewards high work over privilege. But real life is never that simple. Because when one exam carries that much weight, the exam doesn't just measure students. It begins to shape them. To understand why gaokao has such a grip on students, you have to understand what it represents. For many families, especially middle-class or lower-income families, gaokao is seen as the clearest path upward. It is not just about getting to college. It is about security, respect, a stable career, a different life. And that is why the pressure becomes so extreme. If your family has invested years into tutoring, school choices, housing, and daily sacrifice, the exam stops feeling like a test or knowledge. It starts feeling like a test of your worth. Students do not just hear do your best. They hear do not waste everything we gave up for you. That kind of pressure changes the meaning of childhood. Study is no longer one part of life. It becomes life itself. From the outside, people often only see the final exam day. But the real story is everything that happens before it. The long hours, the after-school tutoring, the extra worksheets, the parents watching every grade. Because pressure isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like a teenager sitting at a desk at 11:40 p.m., too tired to think, but too scared to stop. Sometimes it looks like hobbies slowly disappearing. Music disappears, sports, sleep, and even curiosity. And eventually, something even more important disappears. The feeling that learning can be joyful. Instead of asking, what do I want to understand? Students start asking, what will be on the test? That is the moment education becomes survival. And when students live like that for years, it leaves a permanent mark. And according to recent data from China's education system, mental health reporting has emphasized that adolescent mental health is a major global burden. And China has required schools to have counseling units, which tells you the pressure on young people is serious enough to require system-level responses. Now, to be fair, many people in China still defend gaokao, and not without a reason. Because compared with pure nepotism, family connections, or fully subjective admissions, a standardized exam can look more merit-based. To many parents, gaokao is harsh, but at least it is clear. Study hard, score high, and you have a chance. And that belief matters in a country this large. For some students, gaokao has really opened doors that otherwise would have stayed shut forever. So this is not a simple story of evil system versus innocent students. That is what makes it powerful. gaokao is both opportunity and pressure, both fairness and brutality, both a ladder and a cage. That contradiction is exactly why the system survives. Because even people who hate the pressure may still believe there's no better alternative. The easiest thing to measure is a score. The hardest thing to measure is what the system quietly takes away. How do you measure years of anxiety? How do you measure a teenager who no longer know what they enjoy? The loss of confidence. The loss of confidence that comes from believing one bad result means your whole future is broken. When children grow up under constant high-stakes evaluation, they can become afraid of mistakes, afraid of slowing down, being average, and disappointing everyone around them. And even after the exam is over, the mindset still stays. Some students do not feel freedom after gaokao. They feel emptiness, loneliness. Because when you have spent years chasing one giant target, you can suddenly realize you never had time to build a self outside of it. You built discipline, you built endurance, but maybe you never built joy, happiness, excitement. And that is the tragedy hidden inside achievement culture. A student can look successful from the outside and still feel completely hollow on the inside. A student can look successful from the outside and still completely feel hollow on the inside. And here's the bigger truth. This is not just about China. Gaokao is one extreme version of a global problem. What happens when education stops being about human development and becomes a machine for ranking people? Different countries do it in different ways. Some use entrance exams, some use GPA obsession, private tutoring races, elite college admissions games, but the pattern is still the same. Children absorb one message over and over. Their future depends on outperforming everyone else. And once that message becomes normal, stress stops looking like a warning sign. It starts looking like discipline, exhaustion from looking like ambition, and burnout starts looking like success. That is why stories like gaokao resonate everywhere, because even people who never took that exam recognize the feeling. For me, I only studied China when I was 4th and 5th grade, and it wasn't that difficult because I went to a private school. And I actually had an opportunity to look in the public schools where my cousins were studying at, and let me just tell you, it was a nightmare. Nobody should have been going through there, and it was just terrible. The fear of falling behind, the fear of not being enough, the fear that life is becoming a contest before you're even old enough to understand yourself. So what should change and what should people understand? Not necessarily the idea of standards and not necessarily the idea of academic challenge. The real question is whether one number should carry so much power that it reshapes a person's childhood. A healthier system would still value effort, still reward learning, create pathways into strong universities, but will not force teenagers to gamble their identity on a single app. Because when education becomes so intense that students lose sleep, lose balance, and lose themselves, the system may still produce top scores, but it is failing in a deeper way. It is producing performance without well-being. And that should never be the definition of success. The gaokao did not become powerful just because it is hard. It became powerful because millions of people believe it decides who gets to rise and who gets left behind. That is why students fear it, why parents defend it, and why the conversation matters. Because the real question is not whether students can survive the pressure or not. The real question is why we keep building systems that demand so much from children before they even have time to build themselves. And maybe the scariest part is, when a test becomes bigger than childhood, it doesn't just measure the next generation. It changes and defines what that generation becomes. I hope you enjoyed this video and give me a like and sub, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.